Hey everybody, welcome back. Mark Thomas here. You know, ISACA recently released their flagship privacy framework, and the timing couldn't be better. I've heard this called CDPSE, CDPSE, or simply ISACA's privacy certification. It stands for Certified Data Privacy Solutions Engineer, and it is one of my favorites. Never has a strong need for data security and privacy been more critical for enterprises' success. In the era of digital transformation, privacy considerations are imperative in today's climate. Privacy protects our information we do not want shared publicly, such as, say, health or personal finances, and it also helps protect our physical safety. This is a certification you might want to check out. CDPSE is focused on validating the technical skills and knowledge it takes to assess, build, and implement a comprehensive privacy solution. What we'll talk about in this course: give you a little background on CDPSE, the certification requirements. We'll talk about the content domains, exam essentials, and finally, my exam preparation tips. CDPSE is an ISACA certification. ISACA is an international professional organization that provides professionals with knowledge and credentials in governance, risk, privacy, compliance, and assurance. ISACA has chapters around the globe. You can find out more information at isaca.org. This is globally accepted and recognized. It's one of the very few privacy certifications that can give you the mindset to assess, design, implement, and manage enterprise privacy solutions aligned with overall business goals. As of the recording of this video, there have been over 15,000 professionals certified since 2020. CDPSE addresses an overarching privacy posture that associates with multiple relevant laws, regulations, frameworks, standards, bodies of knowledge, and models out there that are relevant and valuable to your overall governance system over data protection and privacy. The content offers concise job practice areas addressing new trends, technologies, and changing business needs, designed to keep you at the top of your game and improve business performance. These statements and domains are the results of extensive research and feedback from data protection and privacy subject matter experts around the world. This can not only help you in your career, but can also assist you in enabling you to have a strong grasp of data lifecycle management, laws, guidelines for data storage, reuse, and destruction, ensuring compliance efficiently and cost-effectively, having a holistic understanding of data privacy architecture and considerations needed when making technology infrastructure, data protection, risk management, and information security decisions. And it can also give you the ability to ensure that all PII or PHI is identified and managed in accordance with legal requirements governing policies and data subject rights. Oh, and you can also share your achievement using a digital badge. ISACA's digital badges are managed by Acclaim, an enterprise-class badging platform providing security and protection to your credentials. Now you can put your digital badge to use and export for display on other platforms and social media. CDPSE recognizes a wide range of professionals for their knowledge and application of enterprise IT governance principles, practices, data security, and privacy. To earn the CDPSE designation, the candidate must be able to meet the following requirements. You need to pass the exam. Now, this is going to be what we're going to cover here in future slides, but the exam is open to all individuals who have an interest in implementation of managerial and technical privacy solutions. Successful candidates will be sent all information required to apply for CERT with their notification of the passing score. You have to submit an application, 3 or more years of experience in data privacy governance, privacy architecture, and/or data lifecycle work. There will be no experience waivers or substitutions with CDPSE. Members and those certified are required to abide by ISACA's Code of Professional Ethics, and failure to comply can result in investigation and ultimately disciplinary measures. Of course, you need to comply with the continuing education policy. So CPE, or continuing professional education, is crucial in order to remain current in your skills and your expertise and to get ahead in your career. The principal aspect of maintaining your CDPSE involves compliance with the CDPSE CPE policies. Now, to maintain this certification, you must earn and report a minimum of 120 CPE hours every 3-year reporting cycle and at least 20 hours annually. The CPE reporting is due by the end of each calendar year and is required to renew through the following year. The exam content basically covers three large domains. We have privacy governance, privacy architecture, and data lifecycle. Our first domain is privacy governance. Three basic areas under privacy governance. First, we have governance. This covers privacy laws and standards, documentation, legal purpose, as well as data subject rights. We have management, which covers roles and responsibilities, training and awareness, third parties, auditing and incident management, and then finally, risk management. We have the risk management process, privacy impact assessments, threats, attacks, vulnerabilities related to privacy. In this exam, you can expect about 34% of the questions to come from privacy governance. The second domain is privacy architecture. Again, we have three areas here. The first is infrastructure, where we talk about things like technology stacks, cloud services, endpoints, remote access, and system hardening. We have applications and software, dealing with privacy by design, applications and software hardening, APIs, and tracking technologies. And then finally, technical privacy controls, really looking at the communication and transport protocols, encryption, hashing, de-identification, key management, monitoring and logging, and identity and access management. In this second domain, you can expect about 36% of the questions to come from privacy architecture. The third domain we have is data lifecycle. There are two areas under data lifecycle. The first is data purpose, where we really discuss data inventory and classification, quality and accuracy, data flow and usage diagrams, and data use limitation and data analytics. And then we have data persistence, which focuses on minimalization, migration, storage, warehousing, retention, archiving, and finally, data destruction. Under this domain, you can find about 30% of the exam questions from data lifecycle. The CDPSE Certification Working Group oversees the development of the exam, ensuring that job practices are properly tested. What can you expect from that exam? Well, there are about 120 multiple choice questions, one best answer from four options A, B, C, or D. The exam will be about 3.5 hours, which is around 210 minutes, allowing for a little over 1.5 to 2 minutes for each question. Certification exams can now be taken online, remote proctored. Schedule your exam for any available date, time, and location within a 365-day period. If you're within 48 hours of your scheduled testing appointment, you must take the exam or forfeit the registration fees. Please note that payment is required before you can schedule that exam. Scores are reported on a scaled score. This is a conversion of your raw score on the exam to a common scale. ISACA uses and reports scores on a common scale from 200 to 800. To pass, you must receive a score of 450 or higher. Of course, you can find out more information on the exam out on www.isaca.org and find out everything you need on the candidate information guide out there on that site. What do you need to prepare for this exam? First, I would suggest getting the exam candidate information guide that we talked about on this last slide. This gives a lot of practical information on the exam, including registration, deadlines, and details for exam day administration. It even has significant information such as exam domains, the number of exam questions, its length, and the languages available. No one should take the CDPSE exam without reading this guide. Which takes me to the next one, and this is huge. The CDPSE Review Manual. I can tell you this is a must-read. It's available in ebook and hard copy format. It's arranged according to the CDPSE's job practice areas. And candidates using this review manual can be sure of one thing: the answer or the way to determine the answer to every question on the actual exam is somewhere amongst the pages of this review manual. I highly suggest signing up for the Q&A database. It's a subscription with interactive, customizable sample exams that draw from a database of multiple questions. You can view your results by job practice domain, and it gets you a look into where to focus your study time. The exam prep community is a really cool resource. It's a great place to ask questions, answer practice exam questions, and share ideas and experiences to help you successfully prepare for the exam, and you can collaborate with other registrants. One of my favorites? Hey, just take a CDPSE course. You've got a few choices here. You can go to the ISACA site. ISACA offers virtual and in-person training and conferences, customized corporate training, And one of my favorites, their virtual instructor-led courses, or VILT. This is an intensive cram-style course that will cover some of the more challenging topics from the CDPSE job practice. You can also go to your local ISACA chapter. Chapters routinely host exam preparation courses, and many of them have accredited trainers. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Ask your chapter leadership or check out your chapter website to see if there's an upcoming prep course. Finally, you can find an accredited training provider who can teach the class for you. It's very important that they are accredited. Where can you find this information? On the ISACA site or APMG. Of course, you should create a study plan for your learning style. Some people prefer self-learning, while others think there's no substitute for the classroom. Your personal experience can save you some study time, but you should take into consideration factors such as the exam question and length logic. Because relying too much on experience alone is a bad strategy, and I'll talk to you about that here in just a few minutes. Pretty basic stuff right here on a general exam tips. Of course, you read each question carefully and eliminate known incorrect answers. I really like to do that, and I'll show you that in a second here. Make the best choice possible. And one of the things I really like is trying to identify those key phrases or words: most, best, or first. And as always, answer all questions. Now we've covered all those, let's jump into my top 3 tips for taking this CDPSE exam. Tip number 1, as I mentioned earlier, do not rely on your personal experience to answer the questions. Think about the CDPSE content. Since it was designed for experienced experts, candidates are expected to have the experience with IT risk and control. Well, in a real situation, your personal experience plays an important role, but relying on it too much during this exam can lead to failure. So let's talk about an example here. Here's a question for us. Which is the most appropriate role to ensure the appropriate use, sharing, and security of personal information? Now, this is a very relevant question because every enterprise can view any of these roles as appropriate. So we need to make sure that we're focusing on the CDPSE content. This is one of those questions that can really throw you off if the organization sees this differently. Let's take a look. Answer A, Chief Information Officer. Now, this is incorrect, I believe, for 2 reasons. The CIO is not a role that we really identify and focus on in the CDPSE content as a primary privacy-related role. And number 2, the CIO is responsible for the overall management of information and technology systems and is not necessarily ensuring the appropriate use, sharing, and security of personal information. I think we can find a better one. Let's cross that one off. B says Enterprise Risk Management Committee. I like that one because it might be something that your organization does, but although it's an identified role in CDPSE, it's not really appropriate here. This committee is responsible for the enterprise decision-making, setting the framework to collect and organize data and monitor privacy risk. Let's cross that one off. Data controller. Hey, I kind of like this one because according to CDPSE, the data controller ensures that appropriate use, sharing, and security of personal information is adhered to. Let's keep that one. I like it. And finally, privacy engineer. Now, this one can be tough. This is where in your organization, you may be going back and forth between B, C, and D, and more specifically, C and D. But I would tell you that privacy engineer is responsible for the creating and designing of the requirements for privacy protections within the enterprise's products and services. So I'm going to cross that off because the controller ensures the appropriate use sharing, while the privacy engineer is responsible for creating and designing the requirements. Let's cross off D and stick with C, data controller. Remember, don't let your experience get you into a wrong answer here. Let's move on to top tip number 2. I should actually make this tip number 1 as one of my favorites. I think you should try to determine which domain the question is coming from. Remember, earlier in this presentation, we said there are 3 domains. If you can find which domain that question is coming from, you may find that many of your incorrect answers are coming from other domains. Here's the example. Which of the following best describes how application and software hardening can assist in data protection and privacy efforts? Well, before we answer this question, let's figure out where it comes from. This comes from domain number 2, privacy architecture, specifically applications and software. So A says it reduces the attack surface. I like that. That came from domain number 2. It is the process of taking a finished application or software program and making it more difficult to reverse engineer and tamper with. Essentially, software hardening reduces the attack surface. Let's keep that on our list. It provides knowledge about the data flows across applications. Now, this is incorrect. This is part of data flow and usage diagrams, which, guess what, are part of domain number 3, data lifecycle. B's gone. It determines the best approach to data destruction. Again, incorrect. Data destruction is part of domain number 3. This addresses deletion, crypt shedding, degaussing, destruction, anonymization, and is not a result of application and software hardening. C's gone. D. It ensures compliance to NIST privacy standards and guidelines. Well, this is also incorrect. Although software and application hardening may be required by laws and standards, it's not really the primary reason. Compliance and applicable laws and standards are discussed in domain number 1, privacy governance. Specifically, NIST is only one of many that are referenced. So let's go with our first hunch, A. That's the only one that really we found that came from domain number 2. And if all else fails, go to my third top tip, and you're completely upside down and lost. Pick the answer that creates the most actionable value from your stakeholder's perspective. Put yourself in the business seat and say, what would my business, my consumer, my customer say about this answer? Here's an example here. An enterprise is outsourcing multiple business processes to a third party, and information about customers will be included in the data flows. Which of the following is a key consideration for the relationship agreement? Okay, so what this is saying is now we have a third party involved. Personal information or sensitive information may be shared with that organization. What is the big thing we need to think about here? Well, A says gain proof that the external party conducts annual risk assessments using an industry-recognized methodology. Now, I like that, but I'll tell you what, although this could be helpful, it's more important for the enterprise to conduct its own risk assessment on the external party to identify potential risks. Simply having proof that the external party does a risk assessment doesn't really provide any actionable information. Now, you may select this because you like that, but we may find another answer here that we believe our key stakeholders will really gain more value out of. B says obtain copies of the external party's policies on data protection and privacy. Great idea, but simply obtaining these may be a check the box, but it does not ensure that the external party understands and accepts its obligations and responsibilities. Folks, it's not as actionable as other ones could be. C, defined service levels and unacceptable levels of service are presented to the external party. Again, I would say that's probably not my best answer. Just presenting these does not ensure that the external party understands or is obligated to meeting those service levels. And then D, confirmation that the external party is aware of its obligations and accepts the responsibilities should be obtained. Now, I could pick any one of these. They all sound like great answers, but let me step back and think from a business perspective. From that perspective, I like D. Of course, the one that provides the most actionable value. In this case, I would say D is the only choice that gives me some assurance as a business that the external party acknowledges their part in the relationship. These responsibilities and obligations will most likely be noted in the contract. From a business perspective, this is the only one that provides any confirmation to me. The others are just checking boxes. They're not providing anything back. The answer here is D. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this quick video has helped you understand some tips and tricks to take in the CDPSE exam, and I hope this gets you excited to go out, take the exam, get your certification, and demonstrate your professional value in data security and privacy. Thanks for your time, everyone.